with a Business is brought to you by Audible.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Married with a Business. I'm Craig.
And I'm Allison.
And we're Married with a Business. We're here to share tips, tricks, stories, interviews of what it's like to be a married couple that own and operate a business together. And we've been doing the podcast for 5 years now.
Yes, we are chipping right along, apparently.
Yeah, I know.
We have lots to say.
We do. Anybody who knows us knows that we have lots to say.
But we also really like talking to people and hearing their story and how they are winning or how they overcame not winning and how they got to be doing what they're doing. So I think that, for me, not just sharing what's in my head, but that is what's really exciting.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk to people and hear more about people. Speaking of people, our little people, our kids, we don't have them today.
No, it's Sunday, and I have dropped them off at school. I feel like right now we're in a season where every day is a school day and a work day, but it will come to an end soon. They are on Saturdays. They've been going to school because they're doing technical theater. They're building sets for the fall play. Today, they're up at school because it is open house day, and they are giving tours and meeting with potential new students, and then they're going to do robotics. They were half delighted and half not delighted when they were invited to be part of today. Not every kid got the opportunity to do it, but the administration clearly saw something in them that was like, those kids would make good tour guides.
Well, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, guys, like it's an honor to get asked to do that. Like, not every student got asked to be a tour guide, to be there with these prospective students coming in. It's and they're 7th and 8th grade, and they're typical middle school kids right now. But they were like, oh, I don't want to go. But like, I kept trying to reinforce to them, like, it's so great that your community has asked you to help show how great your community is.
Right. And it's important that we service our community and we take care of each other and we represent ourselves well and our organization well and take advantage when we're given an opportunity. It's like the old adage of the guy who is looking for help from God when he's in the hole and a priest walks by and he prays for him and this, and he goes through and then, a guy jumps in the hole with him finally. It's like, we're being given all these opportunities to succeed. We just have to understand what that opportunity is and take advantage of it.
Yeah, we were talking about Robert Greenleaf. If you don't know, Robert Greenleaf back in the early 1900s talked about, real leadership starts with serving others and prioritizing the good of your community, the good of the people around you in your town, in your company, in your neighborhood, whatever it might be, and how that is where real leadership starts, and that's how you grow not just yourself but everything around you. So it's kind of all came together today.
Right.
With that.
People do business with people they know, like, and trust, and teachers and administrators write college recommendations for kids they know, like, and trust.
And I think people forget a lot, and we'll get into the show here in a second, but I think people forget a lot, Allison, that like all of that comes together. Like from the sales aspect, like you build that community, you make friends, you're involved in networking, whatever it might be, you build that community, and that's what leads to not only you growing as a person, but probably your business growing too. So anyways, I'm really happy, it's a good experience for them to be able to start doing that kind of stuff, in middle school and get to learn all of that.
Right. And today we are talking to a woman who I met through networking and building a relationship with, whose story is super interesting. She is Diana Okeefe from Threads and Ink Corporation, and they do promotional products. They do T-shirts, bags, resort wear. And the cool thing about Diana is they're a family-owned and operated business, obviously. They've been doing it for over 30 years, and they offer custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional items. But what's cool about her story that she's going to share with us is that she started working in a business with her family, her mom and dad, and then when her mom and dad wanted to retire and move on, she and her sister were in the business. They decided to split ways. They're both still doing the same thing, but they're running their own businesses. So Diana built a new business on her own. And then when her husband retired, he came into the business. And so she's got a little bit of everything to share with us.
Yeah, so take a few minutes and listen to Diana Okeefe from Threads and Ink.
everybody. We are joined today with Diana Okeefe from Threads and Ink, which is a family owned and operated business that offers custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional items for corporations and groups. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Allison and Craig. Glad to be here.
Hey, so great that you're here. So you have been dealing with or in a family business for a long time.
Long time, 34 years. 34 years ago, I was working in Boston. We were living in North Quincy, taking the train every day, doing the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. workload. And I decided I didn't want to do it when my oldest daughter was 6 weeks old. The night before I was supposed to go back, I said, I can't go back. I don't want to do this anymore. And my parents had started a very small screen printing embroidery company in the back of their house. So I called my mom and said, can I come work for you guys? And she said, sure. I said, well, I want to bring the baby. And she said, that's fine. Come on in. We'll see you tomorrow morning. And that's where it all started.
Oh my gosh. So they were super supportive. And what was it like to work with your mom and dad?
So the funny part is my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My father was a truck driver. And when he was 55, he got hurt driving truck. And my mother said, well, you're not going to stay home the rest of your days. So find something to do. And his brother was involved in uniforming. Back then, the uniform business was big. Everybody wore uniforms. And so he started screen printing T-shirts and bringing them into Southie and, giving them out, selling them at bars. And so when I started the next day, my mother taught me how to run this embroidery machine. And then she said, here you go, I'm out of here. That was it for her.
So what was that like? Where did you feel like, oh my God, she just left me here to figure this out? Or
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. But she was helping me babysit the kids while I was doing the work. While I was working, she would stay and, she would babysit and I would work at that time, I was embroidering the shirts. My father was packing them up and he was going off and selling them. And we grew. My sister came to work with us because I had a marketing background. So I started like pushing, like I'm saying, oh dad, we can really do something with this. And he didn't, like I said, he was a truck driver, so he wasn't, all for it. But so my sister came in and she started working with us and I started going out selling and then she was running the machines. So we grew the business to we moved it out of the house. My mother came back and started working for us again. And she was actually she was doing the book.
what did you learn? What did you learn from working with your sister and your mom and your dad?
Oh my gosh.
How did you manage that family and work?
It was hard. It was definitely hard, but it had its benefits because we were all having kids along with growing the business. My sister was having kids, I was having kids. So we learned what did I learn? I learned a lot of patience. And we did it for 11 years. We grew it to the point where we had 15 employees. We were in a pretty big facility, but then my parents decided to retire and me and my sister didn't want to work together. So that's a whole nother episode.
That is a whole nother episode. We also have been through that family transition too. So was that when you decided to go on your own?
Yeah, because I had been saying to my husband, and he had been saying to me, I think it's time for you to go on your own. You definitely could do this on your own. And so when my parents decided to retire, it was with the thought that I was going to leave or she was going to leave or whatever. So we basically split the business in half. We went through the customers one by one, and she took this one, I took that one. And I opened up my storefront in Braintree with Joe, my husband. And
Wow. And how
yeah.
is your relationship with your sister? Was not working together a good choice?
In the beginning, it was tough. It was hard. It was hard on the whole family because kind of couldn't talk about how her business was doing. We couldn't talk about how my business was doing. But it changed over time. It softened. And it's been since 2010. So both of our businesses are still intact. Yeah, we've both been, yeah, we just kind of, she stays in her territory, I stay in my territory. So I kind of look at it sometimes as like one big business that broke off into two regions.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then when you went out on your own, Joe, your husband Joe had his own career, and then when he retired, he came to work for you. Is that right?
Yeah. So he worked for the sheriff's office and he worked midnights. So he helped me. He would come home from work, he would sleep until noontime, and then he would come in and do whatever I needed him to do. And then I think it was 5 years in, he retired and did the same thing. He did whatever I wanted him to do. If needed him to go deliver, he went and delivered. He cleaned the shirts for me. He did whatever I needed him to do.
And how was he good with taking direction from you?
No, no, he was no, he wasn't because he was a union guy and I had to keep reminding him, no breaks. We don't get a break every sometimes we work through the night. But he did. He supported me every way he could.
No mandatory breaks in a family-owned business. We know that.
No breaks.
I said to Craig, how would you like to make more money and not work weekends when he came to work for me? So little did he know.
Little did I know that it was, oh yeah, but you have to work all the other hours. So when you guys started to work together more, when he retired and you guys started to work together more, how did that dynamic work and change?
It was a big adjustment. I should actually go back. So I met Joe when we both worked at Lantana in Randolph. I don't know if you remember Lantana. I was a waitress and he was a maitre d'. It was a part-time job. So I kind of worked for him before. So we knew, and he was a supervisor at the sheriff's office. So we knew how each other worked. But it was tough at first, because, a wife can be demanding on. What do you mean? You can't do it that way. And I had my idea of what I wanted this business to be. But he helped a lot. He helped a real lot with that. But it was an adjustment. It took us a while to adjust you know, to who was going to be the leader. Let's put it that way.
That's a good way to put it. And you have not a bunch, you have several kids. Did they work in the business?
So they helped out. If we had a big job going on, they would come in and help. But they didn't. They all had their own careers at the time. So no, they didn't really work for us unless we had a big job that we needed help. They would come and do shows. So we do custom embroidery in large quantity and small quantity. But one of the areas that we work in is in the resort wear industry. So I do resort wear shows that are like I've done shows out in Vegas where the customers come and they buy what they're going to sell the following year. Yeah, and I do a show up in North Conway where all the stores in North Conway, they all come and I have a big display of what I'm selling for that season and they pick out their designs and they pick out their shirts. So sometimes they'll do those shows with me.
Okay.
Nice. What do you hope that they've seen you work in your family's business, they've seen you kind of start your own business and then work with your husband. Like, what do you hope that they've learned from watching you do all of that?
I hope that they've learned that family is so important for all kinds of factors in your life. When we worked in my parents' place, my kids were at nursery school. So we took turns going to pick them up, making sure that everybody was getting time with their kids. We built a little daycare in the shop that was built out of boxes. I mean, we had a guy that came in one day and he had all these toy cars. And we're like, oh, what's that? And he said, oh, they were in my shipment last month, and along with peanut butter crackers, you know. So I hope they've learned that family is really, really important, you know.
Well, I think they have. You have what, 10 grandkids now?
I have I have 9 now. I'll have 10, 11 next year.
That's amazing. And are you getting the chance to see them?
I do. I see most of them. One of them lives out in Arizona, so I make a trip out there here and there. And she came here this summer, for 2 weeks. So I do get to see them. And my shop now, during COVID, I closed the shop in Braintree. Um, my husband passed away, as you know. So when that transition happened, I tried to stay open in Braintree, but there was a lot of things that he was doing for me that I could no longer do. So, and then when COVID hit, I made the decision to move to Norwell, where I am now, and I have a 5,000 square foot barn garage that's behind my house, and the whole business fit right in there.
Yeah. So you mentioned in there, Joe passed away. You guys were running the business together. Talk a little bit about that change and how that really affected not only like but your business as well.
Well, there was a few things that had happened. He wasn't sick or anything, so we it was a shock when this happened. But he had said to me probably 6 months before he passed, I think you need help. I think you should bring in other people besides me to help, because I think there's things that I can't do that you can't do. It would be good to have somebody in. So I put an ad on Facebook and I asked basically for somebody to just come and work for us, and I was going to figure out the job. And this girl walked in the door and said, I'm what you need. And I said, but you don't even know what I need. And she said, well, just from your ad, because I had said could be filing, could be running to the store, it could be delivering, it could be typing, it could be writing letters, it could be meeting with customers. So like I said, she started 6 months before he passed away, and he was training her to do a lot of what he did. So when all that happened, because I couldn't be there for, probably about a month, I was gone for about a month, where she was handling everything. So she was a godsend that she had come in on that. So it took probably a good year before I could do this on my own again. And then, like I said, when COVID hit, everything. So when I moved to Norwell, everything was new. Everything.
Do you think that really helped, like that new feeling kind of helped with you and transitioning with Joe being gone and the business still kind of going and growing?
You know what? I went to some of my customers that are very, very successful. And I said, I don't know what to do because my heart's not in this. But it's all I know. It's all I've done, for a long time. And one of them said to me, do you want to work for somebody else? Is that what you're saying? And I said, I don't know. I just don't know if I have it to do this on my own. And he said, then you need to think about if you want to continue to do this or if you want to work for somebody else. And I recently had a meeting with him about 6 months ago. And we did our thing. He ordered his shirts. We did our thing. And then he turns to me and he said, "Are you glad you're not working for somebody else?" And I said, "Yeah." That was probably the best thing anybody could have said to me, was to think about whether I wanted to go work for somebody or if I wanted to stay in it. And it took a while to get my heart back in it and to get the momentum, and the motivation to go out and do those orders. But at that time, that's when I joined a lot of I joined the South Shore Women's Business Network. I learned a lot. I joined a lot of women's groups. And I think having the support of a lot of the women's groups and the women that I was around, I think that kind of kept me in the game too, because they're also supportive, and understanding of what I was going through.
You've built a community, you've built a tribe of people around you.
Yeah, I definitely did. Where having Joe with me, I didn't need to have that because he was kind of my tribe and my kids were my tribe, which they still are. But when that happens in a relationship, when one passes and the other's still here, you need to find a new tribe, and I did. So I think it's what's kept me going. People ask me now, so because I had thought I'll retire and that will be the end of it. And people ask me now, do you still think about retiring? And I say that now, being in this business for 34 years, and settling into me doing it alone. The girl that worked for me has left, and now one of my daughters actually does what she did. Um, Being in this and doing it on my own and settling in, it's kind of easy now. We're my customers, I have the same customers that come back. They just give me orders all the time. I don't really have to go out looking for work. That's what keeps me from retiring now.
That's amazing. If you had one piece of advice for someone who was trying to decide if they want to be in business on their own or if they should keep going in the family business, what would it be?
I think family business is a great if the dynamic is there. Um, working with my sister when it was just me and my sister, when we had a few hires, it was great. It was wonderful. Working with Joe, we had such a dynamic between us that was great. Working with the girl who worked with me, we had a great dynamic. That was great. Working with my daughter now, it's good. But when you don't have that, when you're struggling, when you're going in and you're thinking about not doing it anymore, I say don't do it. If you're not really feeling it every day that you're going in, you're happy to see that person, those family members, that if you're not happy to see them and catch up and, figure out what you're going to do in the day, if there isn't a nice back and forth, I don't think it's worth doing. I think that you're better off on your own.
I just want to say that I think you're an inspiration. I mean, just from the fact of I think about it all the time. Allison and I talk about it all the time. We don't know if we could continue to operate our business without one or the other. For me, it's just seems so daunting and scary. And we've been doing this together we've been working together for over 20 years. And so for us, it's oh gosh. And I think it's an inspiration that you've kind of continued on and kept sort of going with it. And just your being able to go from the family business with your parents, which Allison and I have experience with, to, what you went through with your husband and losing him to keep going is just, it's amazing. So it's pretty awesome.
Really proud of you. That's
Thank
really
you.
awesome.
Thank you for that. Because it hasn't been easy. It still has its moments. But I know it sounds cliche, but he would have wanted me to keep going with this because he knew that I was good at what I was doing and that I had a passion for it. So I say that all the time. He would want me to keep doing it, keep going, and you know what? Hopefully you guys live old and just get to retire from what you're doing. I'm sure that's the road that you guys are headed on. Um, because I've said to people, you can't plan for what happened with Joe. You can't plan for that, and you can't even think about it. You just have to keep living your happy life, and working together every day. And you can't plan for that. If you start planning for the bad stuff, you're planning for the bad stuff. You have to always be planning for good stuff.
So, is there a book or a resource that has really helped you in growing your business or moving forward in life? Is there something that you think, oh, if everybody could read this, it would be, or do this, it would be great?
No, I think that I am now a more spiritual person than I was before. I definitely feel more spiritual than I was before. Um, and I've kind of grown my business just winging it. I've looked at other people and I've said, okay, they're doing that. I'm going to try that. They're doing that. I'm going to try that. And I think that that's what has helped me grow my business, because I'm not I don't just do uniforms for companies, which thank goodness I don't, because if I had, I probably would have failed at COVID. But resort wear stayed busy during COVID because people were still, like buying resort wear. Um, plus, and so I do resort wear, I do uniforms, and I still do personal wear for people, parties, when people are having parties and they need shirts for parties and groups and all of that. So I've kept open to whatever people want, I will do. And I think that's why I've been able to stay busy as long as I have.
And where can they find you to place all these orders?
So they can, and I also do government work. I do a lot of work for the city of Boston. I do it like Braintree Fire Department. I do the sheriff's office. They've been very loyal to me since Joe passed. I do a lot of stuff for them. They can find me on my email address, can email me, they can call me. I do have a Shopify account that I just opened about a month ago for the Braintree Fire Department, because they've gone that route. They want to be able to order online. And I've fought that. I've really fought the online thing for many, many, many years. But now the younger set has decided that they want to order online. Even though they can call me and they can order and they could Venmo me or do whatever, they want to be able to order online. So I opened a Shopify account, Threads and Ink, and hopefully that takes off, because I'm going to keep growing it. Right now, it's only the Braintree Fire Department that can buy on it, but I'm going to grow it. I'm definitely going to grow it.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and thanks for being such an inspiration.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was great fun.
Allison, that was great. Diana is super nice. Her story is amazing. We didn't really talk about it before the interview, but kind of touch on it here after. Obviously, for me and you and I working together as a husband and wife in business, the whole idea of working with your husband, having that partnership, that team, and then losing that person, it frightens me. I mean, I'll admit, for you and I, it frightens me every day.
I mean, we've had that conversation since we were in our 20s. What happens if something happens to one of us?
Yeah, and I mean, even to the point of like, I'm not sure from an emotional standpoint that I could even continue with the business that you and I have grown and built together. I think it's like totally. I'm amazed at her strength, and she talked about how it was hard, but I'm amazed at her strength to be able to continue on and keep growing and keep pushing the business.
And the fact that she had some backup plans in place in case something happens. That's something that we need to do a better job of. And now again, bringing that family business full circle with having some of her kids and her daughter joining her and supporting her. There, it might be another generation. So it's so interesting to see that full circle from starting in mom and dad's business, working with her sister, working on her own, working with her husband, going through having to decide, what am I going to do? How does that timing work out? And then bringing her daughter in on top of all of that.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about like how you felt. I mean, you never had this experience. You came into your father's business, and he came into his father's business. And when your father came into the business, he and his brother were a partner for a while, and there were some issues, and they separated, and your father Terry kept moving on. You never had that experience of having to do it with, having the business with your sister, but obviously she did, and like, how stressful and how, that can be tough.
A family business is hard enough. And I think because my dad had been through the sibling portion of it, he was very aware of trying to minimize any potential issues that my sister and I might have. You're always going to have family issues, but to be compounded by how you manage it at work too makes it very difficult.
Yeah, I was actually in a meeting the other day with somebody else who owns a marina with his father, and they're in a family business, and they talked about, we were just, commiserating about being in family businesses together, and we were talking about how, like, on the weekends we'd go away with our parents, and it would be a lot of work talk, and how you and I implemented the whole, we'll talk about that Monday thing. And he's like, oh, I should really start doing that with my dad. And I was like, yeah, like, you don't need to solve the company's problems on a Sunday afternoon at dinner.
Right. And so, for years it was great. My sister worked in a related industry, so she knew what we were talking about, and she could support our business, but it wasn't necessarily being in the day-to-day trenches, which I think has helped. And, having my niece in the business, I think she has seen a little bit of what we do and probably why my dad made some of the choices he made.
So Diana was great. If you get a chance, check her out online, Threads and Ink Incorporated. You can find her on Facebook, Threads and Ink. You can email her, threadsinkcorp@yahoo.com if you're interested in talking to her about getting some embroidery done for your company or whatever it might be. She's a great person to deal with, and we really appreciate her being on the show. Allison, that's going to do it for us this week. But before we go, we should talk about audible.com. You can get a free 30 days of trial of Audible on us. Just go to audibletrial.com. We listen to a lot of books. We've got those every month. You get a little token, and we built a couple up. There were a couple months where we must have not gotten new books, or we were listening to, because they have free stuff on there too. You can listen to some free books, and so we built those up, but they start to dwindle fast if you're not careful.
Yeah, not just business books, but the boys and I listen to a book in the car on the way back home after school. Once we drop off the carpool kids, right now we're listening to a book about Steve Jobs and his autobiography, and they're starting to get into the behind the scenes of how people grow and develop. And we had recently listened to Bill Gates' autobiography, so it's cool back to back to listen to them because their lives intersect and both books talk about both people.
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't think about doing a lot, is like listening to an audiobook, while in the car with your kids, and have them, interact with you on it.
Yeah, because otherwise they're on their phones playing Clash Royale or one of those other games, and this gives them a chance to listen, and then we can have something to engage and talk about when a lot of middle school kids are kind of done talking to mom and dad.
Yeah, they're sitting in the back seat speaking a foreign language that you don't understand that middle school kids speak now. So
check out a good book with your kids in the car. You can get a 30-day free trial of Audible on us.
Yeah, so go to audibletrial.com/bizmarried. That's B-I-Z married. Also, check us out online. You can find us online at our website, marriedwithabusiness.net. You can also find us on all the social medias at BizMarried on Instagram. You can search for us on Facebook. Just connect with us there. We always love to connect with people, especially other couples that own businesses, and talk to them about how they do it. It's so interesting.
And if you're in the South Shore area of Massachusetts and you visit our website, you'll see events that are coming up that I'm speaking at, and most of those events are open to everybody, so you can click on the links and register and see us in person too.
Yeah, so check it out. Find us online. Thanks, everybody, for listening this week. And remember, not only is it important to focus on your business, but also your marriage, because we're married with a business.